Just the whole thing's about fathers, right?
The whole thing's about fathers.
Fathers and Father's Day. So start with a story about your dad.
My dad was like a theater guy. Mm-hmm. So normal dads don't have a closet filled with wigs in the basement. I guess like
George Washington's kids.
Yeah, George, they did. 200 years ago. Like I remember like going like, for example, the last 2 years for Halloween when we dressed up for those that celebrate the holiday. No judging if you do or don't. Not saying I do. Not saying I don't.
It is sad we gotta do that.
I know. It's like
no, it was a Hallelujah festival. Please do not email us.
It was a fall harvest celebration.
It's not even the point of the story.
The point is, my dad gave me the costumes because they were already in his car. Like literally 1 year, I was like, "Dad, I need a costume." He's like, "I'll be right over." And he handed me a Pope outfit.
Just open the trunk.
Nice. So 1 year I was
Pope. Can you stay away from some of this stuff?
No, I'm just saying like that's the type of guy my dad is, and to the point where now my kids think he's like the most wild, like out there, hilarious. The things that you grow out of where your dad gets embarrassing to you, they have not hit that stage yet with Grandpa, and he got asked to do a mystery reader. You're supposed to read a book for 15 minutes, come in, the kids don't know who you are. He shows up, my daughter yells, it's Gampa, and then he reads the book. The problem was, Dad showed up with his entire closet, sets up a stage, has a 6 foot by 3 foot trunk he pulls in, and I walk in, I'm like, "Dad, you have a little like red underneath your shirt." He goes, "Oh, that's my outfit." I was like, "For what?" He's like, "For the reading." It was a red onesie. He had hand puppets. He had a rat mask because he was reading the Pied Piper to a class of kindergartners, which is about a bunch of children disappearing into the woods, following a guy with a flute. I'm like, "Dad, of all the things you wouldn't want to read about." And then halfway through, he throws the book down and yells, "I'm taking creative liberties right now." And he performs the rest of it. And I'm watching it like, this is my dad. This is my dad. This is where I'm heading. I'm like suppressing 80% of the Marty within. My dad's name's Marty. I mean, that's where I'm heading. I've seen it.
That's where the train's going.
It's the train. It's not stopping, baby.
Pat, you win.
Hey, no, that's a weird thing to win at. What a strange thing to win at.
Nowhere to go from that story. My dad was the athlete. Like, I would play with his trophies as a kid, and I thought all trophies said MVP at the bottom. So I thought that was just the name of the company that made trophies. I didn't know until I was in high school and somebody got MVP that's what that even meant, right? So he played everything, baseball, football, basketball, and I did not. So of all the time, like my friends would come over to play with my dad. Right? Is your dad home? Right? So he's in the backyard, he's playing every sport, and I'm playing too, but I wasn't that good at anything, and I never knew it.
Yeah, you know, our dads are our coaches. They're sometimes our managers, they're our agents, but something else that our dads are is they're like the conduit, the first conduit for our self-identity and for our affection. And some dads are really able to express that, and some dads kind of hold back. And my dad was one of those guys that was very approving, very affectionate. He would say, "I love you," no problem. I'd get encouraging cards from him. He wanted to be on the front row whenever I was doing anything. And so that was passed on to me. But what about you guys as far as dad and affection goes?
My dad, very affectionate, and I'm so thankful for that. I think in many ways my dad was a bit of a cycle breaker. He grew up way out in the country, and he wanted to get us into the city. He was the first one in the family to go to school, go to college, and try to do something different. But his dad was a hard-working man who loved him, but just wasn't affectionate. And I know that was one of the ways my dad thought, okay, this is going to change. So we were always rolling around on the floor, wrestling, always hugging on me, and so many things that he passed on to me, I've passed on to JM. Like John Michael, I've noticed he does what I do, what my dad did. We speak to people. If you see someone on the street, you speak to them. Mm-hmm. You hold the door for somebody, you say hello. You look people in the eye. Mm-hmm. When you meet them, the things that I taught John Michael to do are things that I just watched my dad do. And but being friendly to people, but he's very affectionate. And now we are. Now my son, I'm 6'2", he's 6'4", about 305. And every night, my kids have been on the road with me since the start. He comes in, climbs in my bunk, lays on me, like I can feel ribs going, crack, right under it. And he's like, "Hey, Dad." And I'm like, "Hey, son." It's a long day today, but that's how he communicates. He's gonna be on me, man. We're going, and that's something I'm really thankful that he did.
That's cool.
He passed that on to me.
What about your dad, Pat?
Actually, what I remember, one of the most, even now that I realize is a value for Meg and I remember when my parents would get in a disagreement, they would disagree, but in front of us, but then they'd work it out in front of us as well. So, and I don't think I would have even realized that until I got married later, that I saw healthy disagreement and arguing, but also forgiveness and reconciliation. Like that was kind of a very normal thing. Like I also remember my dad, when I was little, feeling like he overstepped a line with being impatient, and he apologized to me as a kid. And your dad's like, "Hey, buddy, I just want you to know I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have said that or acted that way." I'm like, I forgive you. Can I just play Sega now? Yeah. But I did that with my son the other day. I remembered, it's just stuck with me, the level of, I guess it's humility and willing to air out the things that need work in your life, but also I never felt that feeling of I had to be perfect in front of him just because that was something that he modeled. I don't even know if he did it on purpose. And I heard a guy say one time, the only reason there's a Christian is because you've seen someone else live it. You've seen someone else be generous and kind and forgiving and loving beyond their means or what they even had to.
My dad got saved when I was about 8, and we went to a vacation Bible school. Kids in the neighborhood invited us, and the church followed up, shared the gospel with my dad. Dad gets saved. I remember our whole house being different. Everything just started changing. The music was one of the first things that changed. And it wasn't the soft rock station anymore. It was Dallas Home and Rise Again.
Rise
the song.
Again.
We've listened to that song a million times. Oh, yeah. But Dad started taking us to church. He started singing in the choir. He started singing solos and stuff in the church and changed all of that. But I think one of the biggest moments for me seeing my dad's faith was I watched my dad share the gospel with his parents. My grandparents were over on a weekend, and we're all just sitting around and we're just talking, and suddenly Dad starts getting a little more serious, and now looking back I realize he's getting ready to, I'm sharing the gospel with my father. And when he started, I just remember going, I don't need to be here, I don't need to be here, I don't need to be here, I don't need to be here.
If I don't move, they can't see me.
It's like I'm just gonna slide like that. But just I'll never forget the tone in his voice, the look on his face of just sharing the gospel with his own parents. And man, that's when I thought, this is not just a place we go on Sunday. This is real. This is everyday kind of stuff right here. And I saw that in him.
I can remember, my dad was in the choir. He was a deacon. He'd pass the plate, help count the money when it was his turn, and he was an accountant. So when he counted it,
it was on.
It was right. He did it twice. And later in his life, he was one of the deacons that would take the cassette tape messages, and part of his ministry was going to the widows and the shut-ins that couldn't get to church, and he would visit with them every week and bring them the message.
If there were one thing that you could say, I want to reflect this aspect of God's character well to my kids, think about that one for a second. What would it be? I think for me, it would just be kind of the patience. Maybe that old King James word, long suffering, where it's sort of like patient endurance. Too many times in my fathering, I think I've been kind of reactionary. Kind of something would happen and boom, I react. Whether it's a fear reaction or an anger reaction or even less combustible things than that. And then I think, that's just not the way that the Lord is with me. When I mess up or when something goes wrong, He doesn't hit panic mode. I'd like to be more like that with my kids. What about you guys?
Yeah, I've got 4 kids, and they're all 4 totally different people. So however I would have approached John Michael, I would have to approach Reagan a totally different way. Then Zoe's the opposite of Reagan, and Hope is whatever the opposite of 2 opposites can be. so it's going to change with every kid. I think what I want to pass on to them is just the everydayness of walking with Jesus, not just this is what Jesus looks like at worship, and that comes from not missing the moments. Like you'll be hanging out and talking, and you just sense it. Like this is a moment to talk about something, and it's okay not to know all the answers to their questions, and it's okay to go. I don't know how that works, but let's talk about it. And getting in Scripture with them. I remember John Michael and I walked through the Book of John over a year or two, and we weren't breaking down, words and it was an exegetical thing. We were just reading 5 or 6 verses and talking about it, and praying for each other, and he'll never forget that. He'll learn a million new things from the Book of John, but we did it together. So I don't want to just be in their life. I want to be in their life on purpose, and always looking for the moment of when they're listening. Because it's crazy. You can say things 100 times, but you don't know the moment they're getting it. Right? And it's like we'll have a guest speaker come into the youth group, and I've been there 18 years on stage, and one of them a kid will come up to you and go, "My mind is blown. He said we should read the Bible every day." And I'm like, I am so glad
light bulb.
We brought this man of faith here to speak this truth into your young heart.
If only someone had been telling you that for 18 years.
Only there's still spit on your face from the last time I said it. It's not even dry yet. You didn't even hear me say anything. So that moment, knowing that just because I'm saying it today doesn't mean they're hearing it today. So it's a matter of like, where's their heart right now? Where are they? And what's on their mind the most, that's what I need to be talking to them about, not just what my soapbox is this week. And if there's any way to do this wrong, I've done it. So I know we don't want to appear like the dads that have got it all together, because we don't. We're a bunch of dorks. We're bumping our head on life all the time. Anything I'm doing right is because I'm going, okay, don't do that again. But what my goal is to take those moments, spend time with them alone. Like when they were smaller, I could just take the kids somewhere. It's not like that now. Reagan and I need to go to lunch. Yeah. Zoe and I need to go to breakfast. JM and I need to go on a trip and a drive and have the real talks. And you're going to have to sit for an hour and talk about everything but for a while until that moment comes, and you got to be able to wait for it. But you can't just walk in and start a speech, because they're not there that day. So I think I'm still learning. I got a 21-year-old and a 12-year-old and 2 in the middle. And so I'm still learning how to do it as I go.
I really want to show them parents who love each other. I think that would be that's what my parents did for me. I know families are so hard, but that was one of the things I look back and I'm like, man, Mom and Dad they really loved each other. And that was a gift for me. I don't even think they realized what it was. And I know that's why talking about fatherhood is even difficult. Some people do not have great experiences or any experience with a dad that was kind or patient or even around. It's such a tricky thing to even talk about, because it's such an experiential word. And I think that's why I love the question. They're the things that you can only teach by experience.
I just think about families that might have a little different story. My story is a little different. Carmen is often mentioned on our show about her dad and the struggles he fought with alcoholism, and there was some closet alcoholism in my family as well, and some things like that. How do you encourage, because I know we all know people, you all run across people, and we have an opportunity, because we have a voice into their lives, to reflect God to them, maybe where some broken places are in their lives. Mark, I'm sure you deal with this as a youth pastor for sure.
Well, even when I was a kid, and I talked about earlier how all the kids wanted to come over and play with my dad, it was years before I realized it wasn't just because he was good at basketball. It's because a lot of my friends didn't have a dad they went home to. And they loved having that male presence, just to to be around, to push around, to wrestle with, but also to every once in a while just hear, you need to be careful with that. You don't need to be out that late. And I would see my friends kind of long for that when I thought having it, that I wish I didn't have somebody telling me what to do all the time.
Sure.
Now as a youth pastor, being on both sides of it, I see that we need men that love God and love us pouring into us. And I've seen over and over again, not just being a youth pastor, but just being in church, that God has a way of filling in the cracks that the world can leave with godly men in our lives. Mm-hmm. And there have been men that have stepped into my life throughout, that have spoken truth into me when I was in a season that I didn't want to hear it from home. But there's also been people that I've been able to be that second dad to. And I think if you're a male and you're a man, you're a believer, you're a part of the body of Christ, and you're daddy number 2 to a lot of kids. Like, I might be a youth pastor, but we're all called to youth ministry. And there are young men all over, and there are young ladies all over that need someone just to love them where they are and be there and speak into their lives when they need it the most. That's something that I've seen so many times is a kid that says, they'll call me dad, or they'll ask me, hey, what do you think if I go to the prom? Are you cool with that? They just need somebody to speak in. And there's a kid somewhere watching us, and just being open to knowing I'm gonna be that for someone if they need me. There's someone around you right now that God can use to speak into you.
So when there are dad failures, when there are dad wounds in a person's life, how does a person go from there to knowing that God is really good, and when we call him Father, that we're really speaking to a God who is interested in being that perfect Father in our lives? You wrote the song.
God, see, and that settles it. No, I think Father is such a complicated and experiential word, and it is really difficult to not project your experience onto him. And I think that one thing that I come back to in the scriptures when Jesus talked about the dynamics of that relationship is just because he used that picture. It's like when you pray, it's not, oh, distant, can you hear me? Are you angry, deity? It was Abba, daddy, like a really personal word for dad. And one thing that is so beautiful about the work of God is that he heals and redefines words in our lives that have hurt and severe trauma even attached to him. Like the word Father being redeemed by God it's like being born again. Like it's hard to even find words to talk about it. So I think that would be the invitation. Honestly, for me, I had a very present example of a dad, but the other co-writer of the song never met his dad. So you had two guys writing a song about the healing nature of God as a father with two very different earthly experiences of that. And the invitation of Jesus is always to healing and wholeness, and that word becoming a life-giving word for someone who has avoided Father's Day or doesn't know what to do with Father's Day.
I think some of the best, most healthy things we can do is just let our parents be human beings and realize that they're just people, and they're going to fall down and they're going to fail, and if they're lost, oh my gosh, what were they supposed to do? They sinners sin. That's what we do. So if we could release them and go, I don't think they can go back and change everything, and there's a chance they may not even change from here. So God, you got to change me. You got to let me love them where they are. You got to help me to release the things that I'm holding on to, and let you feel that for me for a while, and then let me love him there. And then let God send people into your life that can fill in those cracks for us.
Man, this has been a great discussion today, guys. Thank you. Thank you for opening up about your dads and sharing some of the crazy moments and the challenges, and also the good stories. So happy Father's Day to both of you guys. Happy Father's Day, Pat. Right here.
Thanks, man.
Dave, happy Father's Day, brother. Ooh.